Morning, I'll call the meeting to order. Was the meeting properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Clerk, please take roll.
We have Scott Pease in for Rick Pease. All other members are present.
Okay, we have the agenda before us. There's no questions or changes. Now, if there's no questions or changes on the agenda, I'll note the agenda approved is posted. Okay. Minutes from the July 9th meeting. Motion to approve. Supervisor Paylor. Second by Supervisor Pease. Discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, minutes are approved. Yeah. Some people signed up for public participation. We'll allow those as we go forward on the agenda. Project status. Any questions on that report? No questions? Okay, move on to treasurer's report. Any questions on that report? Supervisor Paylor?
Just like to mention that Marge and I were not able to open that on the links yesterday to see it. Fortunately, Bob did and printed it off, so we had a chance to see it before the meeting, but I wasn't either.
Okay.
No, we weren't able to open the link.
Okay. Then IT report.
Morning, everybody. Are there any questions in this month's report?
Okay, seeing none. Human resources report.
Good morning, everyone. I don't have anything outside the ordinary to report, so if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer anything that you need.
Supervisor Edwards.
Just one question is, I noticed that there's an awful lot of openings in Health and Human Services, and some of them have been there for quite a while. Is there a reason for this that you're aware of?
HR manager, please.
Are there any ones in particular that you're referencing?
No, just the numbers.
Yeah, as you can see the number, you can see how many on the report, how many internet hits there are to the positions, and then how many applications that they've received so far as of June 29th. So the postings stay continuous until the positions are filled. So whether it be the applicants are not qualified for the positions, or they interview them and they don't wish to hire them, or they don't accept the conditional offers. I mean, there's many situations where the positions aren't being filled, and there could be, as you can see, there's multiple positions for certain, multiple positions open as well for the same position.
Okay, thank you.
Did that answer it well enough for you, or is there anything in particular that you're looking for?
No, that was sufficient.
Okay.
And are all the parks positions filled now?
Yes, as far as we have,
We may potentially be hiring maybe an additional park aide at the Castle Rock Park, but all their LTE positions have been filled. We just filled their full-time assistant park manager and their LTE assistant park manager.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, seeing no further questions. County clerk's report.
any questions on my report?
Okay. Seeing none, Corp Counsel,
Thank you. I have a paper report that I can handle.
yeah.
The
Supervisor
reason
Pease.
why we're getting a paper report, and is isn't open to the public, and is this gonna be a regular thing?
It is somewhat regular because I'm not very good at getting them into Lyanna before they have to be posted. So I'll try to improve on that. It is, my understanding is it does become available to the public because it does get posted just after the fact.
Thank you.
Somebody read it to us, we can see if like, if you're gonna talk about it.
No, it can't be read. It's too long. Only if they have questions.
People like to know what.
Okay, there's no requirement that the reports be publicly noticed. We do normally do that, but it's not a legal requirement. So I'm happy to answer questions from the committee. But the public would have to, I don't know if there's any copies left. If there are, Lyanna could distribute them. And otherwise, sure.
Yeah, and this gets posted, all reports that are written to committees get posted on with the meeting minutes
Yeah.
after the. Mhm. Okay.
So let me see if there's any highlights. I think the main thing would be that in the national opioid litigation, they have approved a tentative settlement with Sandoz Inc. And Sandoz Inc. has many companies underneath it, which you'll see when we talk about the resolution later on the agenda. But it is a $99 million settlement. I have no idea how much of that Adams County would receive at this point in time. We'll know that down the road. And then I guess the other thing I'd like to address is Kara and I worked together on getting the 2024 in-rem foreclosed properties on auction surplus, or I'm sorry, Wisconsin surplus, so that they could be sold. After we posted them, she learned that 3 of them were still occupied. We think the proper procedures were followed last year to notify those property owners that they no longer owned their properties. But because that all happened at a time when we had no county treasurer and no in-house corp counsel, we decided that the best thing to do was to take those 3 properties off of the auction listing. And I'm in the process of amending the foreclosure judgment to take them off of the foreclosure judgment. And then we would give those property owners the opportunity to pay their taxes. And if they don't pay their taxes, we're also working on the 2025 in-rem foreclosures. So we would just add them to the 2025 and start the process over again. So if anybody has questions or opinions about that.
Supervisor Pease.
I got a question on that. As far as the properties go, are we still just collecting the back taxes, or are we collecting what would be a monetary amount more than the taxes?
So there was a national Supreme Court case. The case started in Minnesota. I believe it was the Taylor case, but I may not be recalling that correctly. But at any rate, that case found that it was unconstitutional, that it was a taking of property to keep the surplus. So we legally can only keep the back taxes plus our actual expenses for things like the title report and any, actual fees we pay out of pocket. And
So,
there,
so my question is, there's say a $30,000 lot right now that has no bids on it. For 3 years, taxes were $10,000 even a year?
no, that's not how it works. Part of this lawsuit also, or part of the Supreme Court's holding is that the properties need to be, the counties need to attempt to sell the properties at their fair market value. And so a lot of counties are using the fair market value on the property tax bills. Kara and I decided to use the assessed value. So that's what you're seeing when you go to Wisconsin Surplus is the assessed value.
Nancy, it's actually the fair market value off the taxes. That's what
Okay.
the policy, I think, says assessed, but the law says fair market. So we use the tax value.
Okay.
That's what we discussed here in the meeting that day.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
refreshing my memory about that. So if they don't sell at the fair market value, then we can lower them. And the ordinance that was passed has the parameters as to how often they'll be lowered and by what percentage. But basically, to answer your question, Supervisor Pease, the county really doesn't stand to receive anything more than its back taxes.
Well, I
and
realize
fees.
we want to get it back on the tax roll and paid. So, yeah, and I just wondering on why it was so high. Thank you.
Supervisor Paler,
Why would we put a reserve on that auction at the fair market value when we're not going to get it anyway? We're working as a real estate agent for the people that didn't pay the taxes. All we should be concerned about is what's coming to the county, and if they don't get anything extra, that's their problem. They didn't pay the taxes.
Well, again, the United States Supreme Court ruled that we are required to try to sell it for fair market value. And then if we can't, we can keep lowering the price until we do get a bid. But we have to try to sell it for fair market value. And you're correct, in a way, we're doing the work for the property owner, but that's the law that was decided by the court when that Minnesota case reached it.
okay, that's ordinance number 6, if anybody wanted to look that up, so. Any other questions for Corp Counsel? Seeing none, we'll move on to the finance director's report.
Were there any questions on my report?
Supervisor Pease.
I got questions on fleet vehicles. I don't know if you want to wait until that.
Yeah, we'll be discussing that further down below on A there. If you have questions on that, he has a report on that, so. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yep. So the only expenses that we had for ARPA for the past month was related to the Fire District Training Center.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the county administrator's reports. County administrator.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start out with the accolades. First of all, it's very refreshing when departments compliment other departments here at the county. And Miranda Christensen and her team are being recognized for a job well done. I got to write up on that. Next, we have Colton Wolasek and his team. They're being recognized for a 4-year project that was exceptionally completed in 2 years. Under capital projects, Phase 2 building project, the bid packets are planned to go out this month in July. And then there's an update on the County Z project. Under happenings, SANE services in Friendship, there's now a registered nurse or an advanced practice nurse available now in this area, opposed to someone having to go to Madison or even further. Fallen Heroes Memorial Services took place this month or in June at the Federal Correction Institution in Oxford. And regarding the splash pad, the city has hired MSA to develop the master plan. So no expenditures, however, have been presented to the splash pad account here at the county. The Historical Society has extended an invitation to board members for a history video and a tour. So I believe that that invite is open to any department head too. Office move, HR payroll has moved to the second floor and no longer reporting to finance. Other than that, are there any questions?
Supervisor Kuparski?
Cynthia, on the splash pad, do we control the checkbook there or does City Adams?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What the county controls, if you can recall, the ARPA funds, there was 200,000 dedicated with a city match, making it 400,000. So that is what the county controls, that any expenditures they have to relate to the splash pad will be 50-50. And then if there's anything left over, it's then split 50-50, meaning it would go back into the ARPA pool if it's not utilized. And then the other half would go back to the city. So that part of it, we are managing. I believe the project's going to be a lot larger than the 400,000.
Supervisor Paler?
So just to follow up on that question, if the project is larger than the 400,000, the city takes over the balance?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. Then the expense report there is included. Okay. No questions on that. We'll move on to the action and discussion items. First one's the vehicle disposition outcomes and plan going forward. So, Finance Director?
Mr. Chair. So I hope everybody had a chance to read the memo. I just want to kind of highlight some of the points that I made in the memo. So in April 2022, that was when Enterprise Fleet Management had approached us regarding leasing vehicles from them, and we would rotate them out every 2 years. And Enterprise Fleet Management was doing it while making a profit. They would have made a profit off of the county doing this program. So we thought to ourselves, why can't we do this program on our own without Enterprise Fleet Management being involved in it? So when we developed the 2023 budget, we budgeted to purchase vehicles, and this would have been the first round of purchases. And then we also disposed of other vehicles that we had replaced with those vehicles we purchased. Those vehicles that we disposed of, they were in use for longer than 2 years. I think that most of them were in use for about 4 years at that point. In 2024, we purchased more vehicles to be disposed of, and those ones were or more vehicles, and those would be replaced in 2026. So we're kind of starting the 2-year cycle in the 2023 budget and moving into the 2024 budget. So now we're in 2025. We disposed of one Chevy Silverado 1500 for $45,000. We paid $46,775 for that vehicle 2 years ago. The plan going forward, HH Health and Human Services has expressed a need for 5 additional vehicles. We were planning initially to get rid of 10 Chevrolet Equinoxes this year. 5 of those are going to be allocated to Health and Human Services. And then there was a Chevy Silverado 2500 that had a plow on it that we did also put on Wisconsin surplus. That one did not go for the minimum amount that we were looking for. So that one will be reallocated over to Petenwell Parks. They were planning to get a replacement vehicle with a plow, I believe in 2026. So that's going to be allocated over to them, and we're going to get their 2019 Silverado 2500 with a plow and turn around and sell that on Wisconsin surplus. Part of the reason we think for the 2500 with the plow not going for the minimum amount is because of the timing. Trying to sell it in the spring for a plow truck may not yield the best results. Then there was also some external factors that had changed since we started this program. We previously were getting government discounts upwards of about 30%. Now it's anywhere from 9 to 15%. And the buyer's fees on Wisconsin surplus has changed as well. They've increased the buyer's fees. So there's two major external factors that have changed since we started looking at this program. And so going forward, we're going to look at getting rid of those other 5 Chevy Equinoxes, and we'll see where that ends up and see if this program is going to be sustainable for the long term.
So Supervisor Pease.
I'm still up in the air about this. I couldn't believe when I looked at Wisconsin surplus and seen Adams County was selling 2 trucks, one with just over 1,000, I think it may have been 2,000, and the other one had 3,000 miles on it. When you drive that off the lot, your depreciation is going to be a lot. So I'd like to see it change to 3 years and 10,000 miles, and then we can decide whether we're going to get rid of the vehicle or not.
Supervisor Postolsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question for Kyle. Kyle, you gave us an example of the vehicle that was disposed of for, I believe, 46,000, purchased for 45 or thereabouts. Do you have, I mean, you mentioned a lot of other vehicles that were disposed of. Do you have any other examples or figures on what those vehicles were sold for, or what you might be selling them for, the tenure of the vehicles, how long they were in service? We'd like to see that a little more. So can you help us with that a little more and clarity, Kyle, perhaps?
Finance Director.
Mr. Chair. Yes, I do have a schedule put together. I don't, if that's something we could look at the next Administrative and Finance Committee meeting, since it wasn't on the agenda.
Right. That'd be fine. We'll put it on next month's agenda.
How many vehicles total were disposed of? Can you please tell us that, Kyle, or planned to be disposed of? I guess the two different questions there.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So in 2025, we're planning to dispose of 5 more Chevy Equinoxes. We already disposed of a Chevy Silverado 1500. The 2500 is going to the parks. So essentially it's 7 vehicles.
Do you happen to have an estimated what you would be trying to get for these vehicles, or some kind of estimate, Kyle, that you could provide us with, or
Mr.
what
Chair?
we'd hope to get for them?
Finance Director.
Yeah, so we're trying to dispose of them for close to what we purchased them for.
Okay, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. We definitely want to get as much as we can for these vehicles, to lighten the burden of the taxpayers. So thank you. Thank you, Kyle.
Any other questions? The committee? Okay. There's nothing else, and we don't need an action on that, correct? Okay. Next, we'll move on to the resolution for approving the participation in Sandos Incorporated opioid program. And I'll turn it over to the Corp Counsel on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the resolution I referred to earlier when I gave my report. again, the national opioid litigation has entered into a tentative settlement with Sandoz. In the resolution, in the first whereas, I do list the other companies that are under Sandoz, if anybody's interested. Probably the one that we all may be familiar with is Novartis. So basically, in order to participate in this, we need to pass this resolution, which authorizes either the county board chair or the county administrator to execute the subdivision participation form. That form is a standard form that's being sent to all the defendants throughout the nation. Our law firm for this litigation is Krieger Dickinson, and they did say that they strongly recommend that we participate in the settlement. And again, I can't tell you how much of the 99 million we will receive. And part of that is because until all of these participation forms are returned, they don't know how many participants there will be. So they have to know that before they can figure out how the money will be divided.
Supervisor Edwards.
I'll move to approve this resolution.
Okay, motion to approve the resolution sent on the county board, second by Supervisor Paler. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. That motion is approved and that resolution will be sent on to county board. Next, we have the resolution to approve the contract for the county administrator position that was sent back to committee. So one of the items was the salaries that we were looking at. If we want to start there, I guess, or here, we have a couple members of the public that wanted to speak. So Patty Youngblood, you want to?
Good morning, Patty Youngblood, 1614 10th Avenue, Friendship, Wisconsin. I need to apologize a little bit. We've been out of town for over a week, so I haven't been doing my homework. But on this particular subject, I do not care for the words, the county administrator shall report to the Administrative and Finance Committee, which shall provide supervision and instruction. And then, however, the county administrator shall be responsible to the county board. I'm not real happy with that wording. The second thing is the salary. So up through 2029, she'd be making $183,000 a year. Possibly one of the reasons why Health and Human Services can't get any employees is because they're not getting paid what they should be getting paid. Maybe we should think about raising those prices or those rates so we could get more employees. Only other thing I have to say is with this post that was handed out, one copy, is it possible they don't post it because they don't want us to see the details on it and speak publicly about it? I don't know. Hopefully you will take this all into consideration. I do not feel that with how poor our county is, and if you look what her wages are now, she is one of the highest paid administrators, and we are one of the poorest counties. Please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Barbara Barnes.
Barbara Barnes, 408 Fawn Court, Oxford. I'm here to speak about the county administrator position. One of the things I'm most important to me is fiscal responsibility in the county. We're a poor county. Some of us may have moved here from larger counties where salaries are higher, responsibilities may be larger, but we are a small, poorer county. I did kind of a deep dive and looked at U-Government, Madison, the state of Wisconsin salaries, and I looked at what the averages are. I think my thoughts are, on average, a 2-year contract, the same as the board, would be appropriate. As for severance, 1 week per year served, must live in the county. Of the information that I looked at said county administrators are like 40% less effective if they don't live in the county and they don't interact locally with people on a day-to-day basis. The salary should reflect the county population size and budget. I looked at all counties that are relatively 20,000 in size, and unfortunately, the averages in the state are like 93 to 140. The counties of 20,000 are 102. That is significantly less than what is being proposed now. And I think it's fair. The county administrator shouldn't make twice what the sheriff makes, or what the average person household income is in the county. It's kind of an insult, I think. So I would like you to reconsider the salary. I would like you to reconsider some of the other terms if those options are still open. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we want to start on wages. The county clerk had pulled up some information that she can put on the screen so you can see, and she didn't get all the counties to respond. Some of them wouldn't respond. Make that a little bigger, Coleman. Time's up. Okay. You ready, Kabarski?
Those that were posted, are those current? Okay. Okay. I reached out to Monroe County, and theirs with benefits are like 150, and I don't know how we compare as far as duties and, you know, what's in their county versus our county. But
Mr. Chair. So I reached out to all 72 counties with a survey. So we've got lots of the ones I showed on the screen were the population in regards to us. And what I did find is you really can't compare any of them because some of them are county administrators and they're also economic development, or they're county administrators and they're also HR. A lot of them don't have a solid waste. Some of them don't have a health and human services. So it was very hard to compare the salary because every county is run differently. Every county has different responsibilities and duties.
Supervisor Pease.
Could you put them numbers back up? So if
Mr.
you-
Chair,
So if you took, oh,
this is
sorry.
just the ones from the population. Then we do have the other ones too with higher population. And then I also did the schools that all vote in our county and the hospital and Adams Columbia Electric.
Okay, I thought the Iowa County was gonna be economic development was part of their job. If that's part of their job, how much are we paying the economic development person in our county?
Yeah, we don't pay them, the Economic Development Corporation does.
Well, we pay part of it, don't we? Manager or administrator shaking her head.
But we give them a stipend, right?
Mr.
Correct.
Chair?
Yes.
So what the county contributes to economic development is 135,000. Within that is the salary, and that's, I'm unsure exactly how much he is paid.
So what I was looking at is, that minus the 158, But if it's just based on a bonus for them, then I don't know how you'd figure that out.
Supervisor Postowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at this, I believe the citizens said it all in their comments. There's seems to be a disconnect here, a lack of connection with our leaders and citizens. I just recommend that we take a little more time, maybe connect with our citizens a little more. Some of us need to get out there, maybe reach out, talk to people, pick up the phone, just get out in public and just talk to some of the citizens and let them hear what they have to say about this. Yeah, this might be out of touch. We just need to have a practical solution here that accommodates the citizens too, that we serve. And I think it's really important for us to all realize that we're here to serve the citizens of Adams County, and maybe perhaps be reminded that it's not about us, it's about the citizens, and it should be. So thank you.
Supervisor Shelton.
Yeah, I know we talked about this on the county board meeting and a lot of people came out with numbers and stuff like that. So I'm kind of looking at this and I don't see any real research that's been done on the wage here. I was able to find more information 1 hour in Google than is being presented right here. I think a lot more research needs to be made. I think the current position is already overpaid. Thank you.
Supervisor Carrillo.
As well as others have done research. I have done research myself. I have 2 pages here of counties around us. And I brought one right next door, closest to us, Juneau, who has population close to us. They're a little more. They have more stuff going on than we do. They don't have an administrator. They have a part-time person in there who makes $15,000 a year and also holds the county board position. I think my biggest question is, how did we get to this point that we needed to move from what we had? If the wheel works, why did it change?
Mr. Crivello,
Crivolio.
Thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is not, whether or not we should have a county administrator is not on the agenda. An ordinance has already been passed. So if you want to reconsider that ordinance, you would need to talk to Chairman West and get that added to a county board agenda. But right now, what is on the agenda for today is the county administrator's contract, not whether we should have a county administrator.
Thank you. If we're gonna start with the contract, then why don't we start with page 1 and we start with term of office? I think the term is too long. And you don't give newly elected officials a chance to address it by having a 5-year contract. I would like to see that term reduced down to 2 years. I mean, I have other concerns, but
Right.
where do you want to start?
Well, we can start with that
I'd
if you
say
want
we
to.
start with number one and go through the whole contract and come up to the wages.
Supervisor Shelton.
Yeah, actually, in front of you, I've got the Richland County, Wisconsin Administrator Employment Agreement that was done in 2020. I think that would be a good start. It took me, once again, about 10 minutes to find this on Google. That goes into salary, it goes into some of the other things. It'd be a good starting module. Richland County is kind of similar to us. Once again, not exact, but when you look at their terms, it's 90,000 a year is what they're starting them out, and that was 5 years ago. So if we went with normal inflation, the 160 is just not even close.
Supervisor Paler.
Well, I'm the one that brought this up at county board, and because it was brought to me by another person, I realized why the salary was set there, sitting on this committee, was because of the wage study we had last time. Our county administrator had to get these kind of wages in order to stay ahead of some of the department heads. I brought it up because I realized statewide other administrators are making less money, and I stand by that. Now, I think what we have to do is come up with an agreeable figure that's agreeable with our administrator and with us. And as far as the rest of the contract, I've read through the whole thing a couple of times, and I understand why the term of office is the way it is, and the other stuff. I have no problem with anything other than I brought up the wages.
Right. And we're the ones who set the wages. We're the ones who proposed the 160, the 165. It was not the county administrator telling us she needed that, just so everybody is aware of that. The committee set those wages, not the county administrator saying that she wanted that money. So-
Mr. Chair,
So-
if I may, I think that's a good
Yes.
point, and I think it might be helpful for the board members who aren't on this committee to know that the discussions about the contract were all done in closed session, and Ms. Haggard was not here. She left during all of those closed sessions. Thank you.
So, Supervisor Kubarski.
Yeah, a couple of things. What Supervisor Shelton mentioned about Richland County and 2020, we had that same discussion at the board meeting. And it's still 5 years old, whether it's today or whether it was last month. So I don't see where that has a lot of merit. Don brought up the fact, excuse me, Supervisor Carolio.
Carvillo.
Don. But anyway, Juneau County, I talked to one of the board members over there, and they are dissatisfied on what's going on. And they're running their ship without the person there's no one in charge other than a board person. And a board person that's not there on a daily, involved in daily activities.
As
the
the county manager mentioned, we're not talking about the difference between the administrator and somebody else acting. So,
But we're talking about wage.
right.
And
So,
Juneau County doesn't have a wage.
to compare to, that should be the point.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Supervisor Shelton.
And if you read the statute, one of the options the administrator has is to hire out an assistant. So if you look at longevity, that's kind of how you keep an organization going. You put a head in and you put an assistant. But if you're going to spend all your money at 160 on one person, you're not going to get that continuity. So if you go down to a realistic number, in my opinion, and then you hire out an assistant, a part-time assistant, or even cross in a different area that's over there that you can split the wage, then you can get somebody to help if it's too much, if she's sitting there working 80 hours a week or whatever it is, then that's why you're justifying the need for 160. And then when you have to look at work performance, when you decrease hours, you actually increase productivity. But if you're gonna blow all your money and everything sitting in one at 160, you don't have that room to expand it. But according to the statute, she can hire out an assistant. I think that if you go at a lower wage and get her the assistant, you're actually gonna go in a more positive direction for the county. You'll end up spending a little more, but you'll be more positive.
Guess what does Kimmy want to do? No, but for the wage, do we want to leave it as is or? You can. The county clerk is going to bring up the wage, our wage scale, and this wage scale was adopted last year. So I know it was referenced earlier, but we did have this wage scale done last year by an outside firm. So a lot of our employees did get pay increases last year, hopefully up to where the market is. And hopefully that is how we can hire and retain people that we do have. So, and the board passed this. So this is, I don't know if you make that a little bigger. And the committee did not propose putting the county manager onto the wage scale. Slide it over a little bit if you want. Okay. Supervisor Paler.
We did all this in closed session during that last meeting. We have the county administrator here. Could we get her opinion?
Go ahead, Administrator.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I'm happy where I am. And so if we're looking at the wage study right here, corporation counsel is in that second slot. And I think the interest of from what I understand, the interest was that this position needed to be paid more than that. However, I express again that I'm happy where I am. But at the same time, what's fair? So whatever is fair is what I'm seeking. I don't think that the interest of being on the wage scale was not there, because if you think about when we're setting a budget to deal with a perception that if I say that there's this cost of living, which is verified and validated in the market, that I wouldn't want my salary being tied to the CPI that's going to be given to the employees because of perception that somehow I benefit from that. So I think it's good to have a contract that spells out what those increases are every year. It's also easier to budget too. The term of the contract, 5 years, and all of that. There's certain risks with this position. Unlike others, there are some that would take a 2/3 vote of the board to dismiss. This is simple majority. There are assumed risks with having this position. This county has also got a lot going for it. Compared to Juneau, we do have a landfill. That is a huge burden on this position. There are a number, I think I came up with 5, and I sent it to Corporation Counsel, of the things that make Adams County unique, and then puts a lot of pressure on this position as well. The larger your health and human services is, the more pressure on this position. This position is an oversight of all of those departments. And while perhaps not an expert in all those departments, certainly responsible in the end. It's kind of like the buck stops here situation. So if there is a issue with the department level, then it ends up coming to your administrator. The other, okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well,
Please finish.
well, go ahead and then maybe I'll come back.
My next suggestion was, Lyanna, do you have a calculator handy? If you took corp counsel's position and put it in a figure for the 5 years? Just in a total figure. Would you be happy if you were even with corp counsel?
Mr. Chair,
If you want to answer.
whatever's fair is what I'm happy with. Okay, so I don't want to devalue my position, my credentials, the years of experience, the things that I contribute to the community already, and the assumed stress and responsibility of having all those departments that other county officials don't have, county administrators don't have. So again, just like the clerk said, it's hard to compare apples to apples if you're just looking at a number. There could be other buried benefits that they get. You know, a bonus, like that's first time hearing that there's a bonus, someone got a bonus. So anyway, I am happy where I am. I think that whatever you determine as being fair is okay with me.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Supervisor Kubarski.
All right, we're talking at a person that's got now 4 years experience in this position. Maybe not this particular position, but certainly heading up the county. And if I remember correctly, in the first year or two, she saved this county a lot of dollars that would have paid for that position more than once. And I don't remember what they all were, but I remember there was things that happened right after she was hired. And so, you know, whatever's fair is fine with me, but the old saying, you get what you pay for.
Just go back, Supervisor Paler. I grabbed the calculator out and corp counsel has that. So corp counsel, new hire corp counsel starts at 146,994, so roughly 147,000. Without any COLA increases, after 5 years, it would be 162,700. But remember, that's without COLA increases, and COLA could be, you know, wage study is up by that every year, and that probably averages, finance director, 2%, would you say?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it's 2.3%. It was what the cost of living adjustment is that we're using for the 2026 budget.
Supervisor Paler.
There had been a suggestion at county board to just lower those numbers that are up there right now by 5,000 on each.
I think it started at 150.
Was it that low?
It was 150. Yeah, it took off 10.
Okay, so
yes,
we have some numbers to start with. And I like Bob. I think Cynthia's done a great job, but I'm trying to be fair as possible. So I don't know. If we started at 150, then went to 160, 165, 170, 175. That's a $5,000 a year reduction other than the first year. And I think corp counsel is over 150, isn't it?
Not right now.
147 right now.
147.
Roughly. So is that a motion?
Initially, I had figures down of just taking $5,000 off each one of those. At this point, let's leap in for discussion before I make a motion.
Okay. Supervisor Kubarski.
Yeah. Bear in mind, this is going to be presented to the board again. And they're the ones that are actually going to do the yay or nay. In order for them to vote affirmative on this, I think we need to drop it to 150 and then move it on through. So 150, 155, 160, 165. And then 165. I don't know about the last one. 170? Is that a? That's, no, see, that's accumulated more than that. Yeah. 75. I think these have to be negotiated also with the person that we're hiring.
Well, this is a starting place and
Yep.
What was the figure for the last one? 170?
if it go that way, it go up 5,000. I mean, it's a starting place, you know. The increases are as a percentage go down, but
Why did we, on that site up there, between the fourth one and the fifth one,
well, to keep the percentage about equal, you had to increase them a little bit after 2 or 3 years. That's what we did.
okay.
Supervisor Grabowski, further or no?
All right, I'll propose and I'll put this in the form of a motion that we start at 150. And at the end of the year, it goes to 155.
Okay.
And then 160. Then 166 and 172. See that, Lyanna?
150. Okay, so the motion is to move the salaries from 150 the first year, then 155, then 160, then 166, and 172.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, second by Supervisor Isers. Further discussion? Supervisor Paler?
Before we vote, can we ask Cynthia her opinion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm fine with whatever you decide.
What we talked about earlier is what's fair and what will the board vote in the affirmative on? And I believe this is probably as good as we're going to get.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I do have a spreadsheet which I was just revising, and that does keep the corporation counsel salary lower than the county administrator's salary up until the 5th year. And the 5th year, the corporation counsel would make $300 more, so it's almost even. So I just wanted to share that information with you because I know that was one of your goals.
You think we should lower corporate counsel? This would be easy.
So, okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, that motion passes, so those will be changed in the schedule here. Term, I know there's been discussion about terms for 5 years. I mean, it still is in here that, I mean, it's not a set 5 years. I mean, the county board at their discretion, can terminate the contract by a majority vote, where that was in, what's it? Oh, in the top section. Right, but now we're removal. Termination under number 6. We can remove the evidence by 2/3 vote. It'll be a majority vote. Supervisor Palin.
I think we should leave that at a 2/3 vote. If you put that at a majority vote, you could end up with problems down the road. You'd have somebody that decided they didn't like corporate counsel, they get a few of their friends run for county board, and all of a sudden you have a simple majority.
So
any other department head or anything has to be removed by 2/3, so.
Supervisor Shelton.
And if you go into the regulations, right, it states majority vote, nothing in there 2/3. So I challenge on that one on the legality. We can't put the 2/3 vote in.
So. Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Supervisor Shelton is correct. The statute is rather vaguely worded, but basically it says that the county administrator serves at the pleasure of the county board and leaves it at that. So that would imply that only a majority vote would be needed.
So we should change that wording. So.
I think we should leave it as it is, and if the full board decides to change it, we'll deal with it then.
Supervisor Pozdowski.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend a member of this committee change the verbiage from the 2/3 vote to a majority vote. This would better reflect and balance the county board and reflect the citizens here in Adams County better. Because otherwise, I can tell you right now, with that 2/3 like that, we're not going to be reflecting what the citizens' best interests or wishes are. Okay, so just as Supervisor Shelton pointed out, this is not legal in our rules. It clearly states that the administrator serves at the pleasure of the county board and can be terminated with a majority vote.
It's not in the board rules, it's in state statute.
Or state statute, but that is what we should be going by. We should have a structured rules that everybody should follow, and this is an example of such. Thank you.
And I know I talked to Attorney Phillips on that, and he agreed with that. So we should change that. So I'd urge somebody to make the motion and change that. Even though it'd be our, and I talked with the county administrator and she was fine with that.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Motion to remove the 2/3 vote of the county board.
That ain't gonna say I'm gonna get a second, but I'm making the motion.
Do you want to
Question.
second it so we can have discussion, please?
Okay, I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay. Motion's on the floor. Questions now. Go ahead, Supervisor Baylor.
question for Corp Counsel. Because it's a state statute, does that mean that a contract between an administrator and a county cannot change it?
That's correct. And just to give a little history, when I initially drafted the contract, I put 2/3 in because that's what had been requested. And then I had Attorney Phillips review it and he changed it to 1/2, but he didn't really give me a statutory reference. He gave me other reasoning. So then it went to this committee with the 1/2 or the majority. Yes, thank you. And so just to be clear, it's not 1/2, it's majority. So instead of 10, it's 11 votes if everyone's here. But anyway, and then in negotiations between Supervisor West and Ms. Haggard, it was changed back to 2/3. So then as Supervisor West said, he had another consultation with Attorney Phillips, and that's when he pointed out the statute. And I reviewed it and agreed with him.
So the contract cannot supersede state statute. We cannot make the contract be more prohibitive than the state statute is.
Somehow it seems like security ought to come in here a little bit, that job security is extremely important when we hire or we or we don't. And to me, 2/3 is fair, but you're telling me that that's not going to float as far
Correct.
as legality.
Correct. Yeah. Supervisor Shelton.
Yeah, this isn't personal against Cynthia or anything, but this isn't security for her job. This is security for us as a county. And I don't even understand when we got laws that we have to abide by, and then we're being told that we have 2 different court councils that are telling us that we have to do this. Why is this even a discussion? It's a law. Thank you.
So you made your point, Supervisor Postowski. So I think we're ready to vote on it. So what? Yeah. So okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Supervisor Kubarski noted. So, but that motion passes, so that'll be changed. I know PTO and the administrative flex was an issue that came up. We were thinking about just adding the PTO policy plan on there so everybody knew where it was, so we wouldn't have to add all that language. Just as a normal employee would be. Is the committee fine with that? So we'll just add like verbiage, Corp Counsel, like see amendment addendum A and include that as addendum A. So any other areas? What's it? Severance was another one, right? That was brought up. Nothing. Supervisor Shelton.
Yeah, I feel that 6 months is pretty excessive. If you go, once again, what I put in the last meeting, if you go to OPM, and that is, federal government, and we are still sitting in the county, but it should be 1 week, 2 weeks for every year of service. And once again, this contract isn't to protect Cynthia. This contract is to protect us as a county. Even when we change the 2-3 to a majority, you still got to get 11 votes, and anything that's controversial that's coming through this county, good luck getting 11, because you're not going to get it. You power here just on a 5, or 4 or 5. That's almost a majority. You'd have to make huge flips, but this contract should be protecting us as a county, so that and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with their performance or anything like that. It's not with that. But you never know what's going to happen in a year or 2 years. And if you're going to lock it in to where you can't get rid of her, because right now, 6 months, that means if you want to terminate her, that's 80 grand. That's simple math. So you're going to go 80 grand, and then the discussion is going to be like, well, we had to do this, and then we're going to pay another, and now you're going to be talking about to replace out the county administrator. You're going to be sitting at 240,000. Your vote's going to instantly go no. You're not going to be able to hold her accountable for her performance, and that's not protecting the county's wishes.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Pease.
We have never, I mean, we've hired a couple, since I've been on this board, and it takes 6 months to get a corp counsel at least. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but there won't be double pay there for 240,000. That's just my point.
Right. And if there's a performance issue, that would be cause. That would be cause, and there'd be no severance with a cause removal. So, County Administrator, you want?
Mr. Chair, so in contract negotiations, it's not just one side. It's not about protecting the county. It's also protecting me, who is, or this position, taking on risk. It's called mutual assent. So in every contract, there's a give and take to you get to a point that you compromise. And so with the risk of the majority, because you could get a whole new board that has ideals, and then this position is on the chopping block. There is risk assumed with that position. 6 month severance actually protects me, gives me enough time to have enough time to find another job if all of a sudden I'm just dismissed. So mutual assent, there's mutual agreement. There's give and take on both sides. It can't just be county, and it can't just be me. It's in between.
Supervisor Shelton.
Yeah. So our other directors, how long is their severance for? And then if it takes one person to remove another director, which we have in an administrative versus a whole board. So when we look at the risk, she's at less risk than an actual director. And I don't know what their severance time is, but can anybody here answer what your severance is as a director or even corp legal?
I would say there probably isn't.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
to my knowledge, the county administrator is the only position with severance, but Ms. Wood is in the room, so perhaps she can confirm whether or not I'm correct.
I would probably agree with that, yeah.
Mhm.
Because it's a contracted position. The other positions are not contracted within the county. They're all on the wage scale.
Supervisor Paler.
I believe county administrator is the only position that can simply be terminated without cause by a majority vote of the county board also.
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
So. Okay. Any other items you want to cover? Doesn't seem like the committee wants to change that. We can talk about it on the county board floor again. Okay. If not, I'd entertain a motion to move the amended resolution forward, or the change rate. It's not really amended, is it? It'd be, the resolution is changed, right? Or
The contract has changed. So I didn't even look at the resolution. Do that quick. Okay, there we are. Thank you. Could you go down a little bit? Okay, so so it refers to, in the very last, right there, number one, it just says the attached employment contract. So, but the employment contract that was attached when this resolution was passed is not the same one that's going to be attached now. So, I think we probably should. That's good. Yeah, let's do attached amended contract. And then just before you vote, to make sure I have the changes, I have the change to, okay, I have the change to salary as 150,000, then 155,000, then 160,000, 166,000, 172,000. Then under B, I have basically that we're gonna, for PTO, we're gonna just say see addendum A, and addendum A is gonna be straight out of the personnel manual that shows the PTO and the admin time. And then under paragraph 6, I have majority vote instead of 2/3. Those are the only changes I've made. Is that correct?
I think one other item we might want to discuss, with in consideration with the salary. I mean, the salary was not denoted when it's going to start. Before, we were assuming it was going to start with the last board meeting, but now that hasn't happened because it got kicked down the road. Do we want to look at setting that date as being the last board meeting? It was going to take effect before, when we took the contract on June 18th, the day after the county board meeting. So
1 month isn't going to make or break the county, so
okay,
leave it as is, last board meeting.
okay.
You should probably backdate that to when she actually took on the functions. So I do believe that was back in December,
Yeah,
January.
and we talked
voted.
about it. We were fine doing it on June 18th when I talked with Cynthia about it. You know, we don't need to backdate it all the way to the beginning. So as we do it just as of June 18th. Because that's what, because if it gets kicked down the road again, we don't want to, you know, we need to make a decision, right? Good, bad, or indifferent, that we can all agree to. And
I would move to pass the amended contract and with a start date of June 18th.
okay,
I'll second.
okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, so that resolution should be ready to go back to county board on next month. No, you can keep
No,
it.
you can keep it.
Okay. Okay, well, I missed setting the date. Where's that? Oh, really? I missed the date for the next meeting date there at 7. Next meeting date for the Admin and Finance Committee. No. August, you mean? August 7th? How does that work with everybody? Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. Thursday, right? Supervisor Paler, Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And that works with me because I actually have a meeting on the Friday.
Lyanna, how come there's duplicate of opium settlement and housing dates on there?
I'll look at that.
Okay. Otherwise, then I'd consider a motion to convene in closed session per Wisconsin State Stats 1985, paren 1, paren F, for the purposes of preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems or investigation or of charges against specific persons which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have substantial adverse effect on the reputation of any person involved in such problems or investigations in Wisconsin State Stats 1985, paren 1, paren G, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the board with respect to litigation in which it is involved. So, motion by Supervisor Paler, second by Supervisor Kowarski. Roll call vote. Supervisor Paler.
Yeah.
Supervisor Kowarski. Supervisor Edwards. Supervisor Pease.
Yeah.
Supervisor West is a yes. We're in closed session. I'm not allowing anybody but the Admin and Finance Committee to stay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to clarify because the statutes used, there's two reasons. Is this closed session to discuss performance issues, or is it to discuss the litigation against the treasurer?
Both.
So I would ask that this committee move to separate those two. Because if there's performance discussions, I should have a right to be in session and represent myself against allegations.
I'm going to let Attorney Phillips address that because he wrote the closed session language if he's online.
I am online. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, and so this isn't there's not going to be any official action or anything emanating from the discussion in closed session. And so the 1B right to be in that closed session and demand that it be an open does not exist. It would be up to the committee as to who they allow into that closed session.
Supervisor Postowski.
Mr. Chair, I ask who drafted the verbiage within this resolution? Can we please know?
There is no resolution. I believe you're talking about the language on the agenda.
Yes.
And I already answered that. It was
Okay.
Attorney Phillips.
Now, the citizens, it's obvious in this presentation that we are confusing a elected official with a county employee.
Mr.
This is an elected official. It needs to be happening in front of everybody. I object to the closed session presentation, and this closed session, it should be done in front of everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Supervisor or Attorney Phillips. I don't know if, right.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that the two sections that are cited, 1F and 1G, 1F deals with sensitive information, which if made public could tend to harm the reputation of the individual being discussed. So it's a protection for the individual being discussed. 1G is conferring with legal counsel. So this is not your 1C exception, which would deal with the employment relationship.
Okay.
He answered your question, Supervisor Postowski.
And well, the board chair has already ruled that we're going into closed session and everybody else needs to leave the room. So you're out of order by continuing to question.
We're not in closed session yet.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
We voted to be in closed session. We're in closed session.
I have one more comment.
No more comments, Supervisor Postowski. Please leave.
Happy 4th, everyone.
Thank you.
Got the telephone, you guys. The telephone works faster.
Sure. Yes. Okay. We're shutting the Zoom down now, so.
We can't shut